Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Cataclismo. I'm Neodyinamite, gentlemen. Well, today we're gonna be doing something different. Today, I actually want to, I hope, teach you a thing or two about building fortifications in Cataclismo. We're gonna talk about thickness today. One of the main mechanics of the game, one of the main aspects of the game is building fortifications to withstand the incoming nightmares, to withstand the nights, and withstand the horrors coming just around the corner from the edges of the map. Now, you're probably thinking to yourself, so something maybe like Stronghold? Well, in a way, yes. In a way, no. Imagine that somebody have taken the idea of Stronghold, added a bit of a Lego building, I guess, and created this game. If you don't know how this thing exactly is, I made like a little playlist of the campaign missions, so if you want to find out more, I highly recommend that you give it a try, or maybe even better, give the game a try. There should be a link somewhere in the description below. Now, as I said, most important thing is building fortifications, but how does this thickness thingy work? Now, before I'm gonna start, please remember that this is the sandbox mode of the game. That means I have unlimited resources, I have everything is unlimited, but also all of the research is done. So, as you see, I have here the most simple of stone blocks that you can actually use in the game to build stuff. And it's already on 6 hit points. I'm not quite sure how the development went and how many things are gonna change in the future, but please keep in mind, because this is a sandbox mode, everything is researched. So my things may be different from the things you have. When building walls in this game, you're gonna basically use 5 elements mostly. You're gonna use single brick 1 by 1, you're gonna use stone brick 2 by 1, or you're gonna use the stone brick 3 by 1. You can also try to use vertical, so 1 by 1 in the base, but up to 2 high, and same one over here, but up to 3 high. And those are like the basics. Using those elements, you're gonna build the majority of your fortifications and get used to those elements, because you're gonna be using them all the time for the entirety of the game, either through the survival, campaign, sandbox, whatever. Those 5 elements are basically your most important elements, and as I said, you're gonna be building a lot of fortifications of that thing. There are also stairs, but the thing is that you can build, if you so desire, stairs out of lumber as well, so I'm not including them. Yes, they're also pretty important because, well, you need to somehow bring your soldiers up the walls if you actually want to have the benefit of having a wall. But today we are talking about the walls themselves. Now, you probably did notice this thing already, and that this thing have different colors. Because this thing have different colors, it also affects its toughness. Through the game, you will find ruins. Just so you know, if you see ruins, it does not necessarily means you're supposed to use them. There will be some missions where actually that's a trap set by the developers. So keep that thing in mind. Only because you see a ruin does not mean you can use it. I mean, you can use it, but it does not mean you should use it. So it depends on the mission, and for that, well, you have to figure out this thing on your own. Some of the ruins you can destroy, but the majority of them cannot be recycled. So you have to either use them, ignore them, and just use them as a bumper to stop the enemy nightmares. And then into play comes something called toughness. Basically hit points for each of the element of the wall or fragment of the wall. So for example, depending on the color, you can deduce how strong that particular wall element is. So I got some starting things over here, like those are like, let's say, ruins, right? You're gonna probably see ruins like this. And those, as you can see, have only 6 hit points, right? And you won't get more, like this is the maximum. But if you're gonna keep building higher, and toughness is related to the height of the building, not its thickness. By that I mean, if I'm gonna build, for example, let's say a wall like this, in this particular way, the strength of the wall is not gonna increase. It's gonna have 7, this one's gonna have 7, this one's gonna have 7, this one's gonna have 7. They have 7 because this is a 3-piece wall, right? This one is 2-piece wall, so this one has 6 hit points. But this one over has 96. Probably like wondering, wait, how is that remotely possible? As I said, it's about height. The higher the wall is, the stronger it will become, and you want to build high. Why? Because this gives you bonuses to your troops that makes them more makes them deliver more damage, but also makes the walls harder to destroy. It's not gonna take long time for the nightmare to destroy something that has 6 hit points, but something that has 96 hit points? Well, that's a different story. As you can see, this element, this particular wall, has 4 segments, right? So starting from the base, the first one, the second one, the third one, and the fourth one. and the wall will change. So same goes over here. If I'm gonna do something like this, the color will change. And this thing no longer has 7 hit points. It has 112. So if you're gonna keep going like this, eventually your walls will start to look like this. And this wall has 240 hit points. And keep building, you're gonna have something like this. Like the purplish type of a wall, 480 hit points. But then again, you probably notice that this thing is kinda high. Yeah, it is very high. It's actually even higher than the Citadel that you're gonna start every mission. If you're gonna use the Citadel in the survival mode, or basically for the majority of the campaign, you will lose the mission. Some of the adventure missions involve that you have to make Iris survive. If you're gonna lose her, well, that's a game over for that particular mission. But basically, as you can see, the wall is a lot higher than the Citadel. And I cannot guarantee that you always will have this many bricks to build a wall like this. So you're probably like wondering, okay, so that's basically impossible. Not exactly, because next to it you probably noticed that I've built another wall. And the purplish color starts over here. How's that possible? Well, ladies and gentlemen, because this wall has a medallion. The medallion modifies the wall to a great degree. So look at this, for example. I have one piece wall over here. This one has 6 hit points. This one has 96. Only because I've invested a few more stone bricks and I've added a medallion. And this is basically the first level of the wall. It's only one brick, only one block, whatever. 96 hit points. So how do you think? What's gonna survive longer? One piece made out of 6 toughness, or one piece made out of 96? And as you can see, the medallion actually is a great tool to use. Because, well, it gives you a range bonus to the soldier standing behind of it on the wall. But also it increases the strength of the wall itself. So, by adding a medallion on level 1, I already got 96. But if I'm gonna build the wall up to 4 elements and add a medallion as well to it, my wall is not going to have 96 hit points. It's gonna have 240. So rather than repeat the same thing over here, this wall has how many? Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Plus the medallion. And it makes the wall to have 480 hit points. Just like this one over here. The highest possible wall I can build without a medallion. So, doing those things is gonna make your defenses a lot easier. So yes, you build high. You try to build as high as that is humanly possible, but that sometimes is not all of the things you need to do. Because, as you can see, I got another section of the wall over here. You may think, okay, that's quite easy, right? I can just grab the 3 piece and just keep stacking it one another, right? And you can build yourself a high wall and will be able to withstand the horrors. In theory, yes. In practice, no. Why? Because this wall is gonna get huge amount of punishment. You really think that 280 hit points is a lot? Depends on the difficulty. Easy? Sure. The snipers won't get for that thing. No problem. If you have some archers on the walls, they probably won't be able even to reach the walls. But on medium and higher, ooh, that could be actually a problem. There is a high chance that the wall actually will be destroyed. So you're thinking to yourself, so that's not a biggie, right? Well, not exactly. Because if the monsters, the nightmares, would destroy this base over here, as I'm about to do it, then the wall would turn red. It didn't collapse it instantly because I passed the game. But basically this means that if I want to build something over here, then this entire section is gonna collapse. That means that the soldiers that will be standing on the wall right now are gonna drop to their death and they're gonna get annihilated by the nightmares. So you ask yourself, okay, so what now? What I could possibly try to do? Well, for example, I got a wall over here as well. And, as you see, I'm missing a block here. So, what does that mean? Well, remember what I said about Lego? Yeah. Lego comes into play right now. Because the game is giving you lots, and I mean lots of elements to play around with. As I said, you need to get familiar with the 5 elements at the very beginning, but mostly you need to get familiar with those 3. you're gonna use them, I think, more than you're gonna use them. So how do you exactly build? Well, that's pretty easy. Don't build like this. Because obviously, if you're gonna break this, then the entire wall is gonna collapse. And there's nothing you can do about that. Expect, you can try to maybe do, for example, let's see, what you could try to do. Well, that's a good question. I could maybe do something like this. Make the base out of the 3-piece and stretch it. Or maybe even better, how about we're gonna do something like this? Instead of like stretching it, I'm gonna put it like this. So the enemy will be coming from this mist lake or mist river or whatever the hell this thing is. And it's gonna be attacking the wall, right? So imagine that there will be... I need a volunteer. Yo, you, get over here. Imagine that this section of the wall will get attacked. Okay, so only this section will be damaged. This section will be destroyed. It got destroyed. But I'm not gonna build like this above it. No. I'm gonna do that a little bit differently. Because why to build that when I could try to do something like this? So even though that this one block is missing, well, the wall is not going to collapse. And you keep building like this. For example, if I build those elements across, then probably doing it like this is going to be also a good option. And then I could try to repeat this thing again on this level. So let's say like this. So all of a sudden, even though that we are missing this one part, this entire wall is still standing. So during the night, you've managed to gather some resources, you managed to build a wall. Good for you! The nightmares came and then knocking down your door. Your hope that the troops will reach those fortifications on the opposite side of the castle. But the nightmares managed to destroy, let's say, this section of the wall. Oh no! Now they got an opening. They went inside and destroyed the citadel. Game over. Humanity lost. But what about this wall? Well, you built this wall a little bit differently. But you were also a little bit smarter. Because you keep advancing, you keep expanding, you keep building in a bit different way. And you always came up with a new idea. So you destroyed this wall, you destroyed this wall. Okay, they get damaged. But right now this section is a little bit, well, more survivable. And also because you build it like this, the nightmares, the horrors, they don't have such an easy way in. Because, sure, they only managed to destroy only one segment over here. Instead of, like, example, destroying one element like this, and basically opening a 3-tile wide entrance to your castle. Sure, it's gonna take them from some time to destroy this thing, but once they do, well, they have a wide opening. And with one opening like this, you can still try to figure out something. Sure, they still have to damage this thing to get through. Next section of the wall will get damaged. Does it? Well, yeah, some of the elements will get destroyed. But soldiers are still safe. They can still keep firing. The wall is still standing. Sure, they have to destroy another part. Oh look, the wall is still standing. Sure, most of it is getting destroyed, but the wall is still standing. Some of it at least. Your archers still can try to deliver some damage. They can still try to save the situation, unless the final wall is gonna fall down. Then, well, the situation is not so bright. Sure, let's say you have 3 archers on the walls. One archer will still remain on this block, one archer will remain still on this block, one other archer, well, is gonna have to probably fall back or move on a different section of the wall. But the wall itself still is providing a bit of a choke point, it's still providing some advantage for your troops. Unless the enemy is just gonna destroy this block, and the entire wall just went to shit. Now, because I'm recording this before the release, like the full release of the game on Steam, I'm not quite sure what the developers are planning. Would they be like different mechanics? But I think the core will remain the same. So don't build something like this, but build more something like this. Or even better, as I said, build something maybe like this. And then keep exchanging the wall pieces. Don't build everything in one row. Don't build everything in one column. Because that's gonna make the fortress way more vulnerable for the enemy attacks. Now, of course, there are some more pieces in the game. As I said, there are like shitloads of pieces. For example, you have windows. Like this is an interesting piece because it requires a bit of a more creativity when it comes to building. It adds, well, obviously it adds windows for your troops. So for example, we can have one section of the wall in a column have, let's say, 2 units, or maybe 3 units, or maybe 4 units that can actually attack. So how exactly this thing has to be used? Well, it depends. Because you can make a lower side of the wall, for example, for specific type of troops, and you can still keep building the rest of the walls above it. So let's say that the first 4 levels, we have to go with the rule I just explained it to you. Then you could try to place some windows, and above those windows you can just try to keep building. Because, well, let's be honest over here, if you're gonna be built above 4 levels, it doesn't really matter how you're gonna build it above that 4. Because if the base is gonna collapse, the entire thing is gonna try to collapse anyway. Well, it's gonna collapse anyway. Sure, you could try to do some modifications that somehow maybe you'll be able to save some parts of the wall. That's probably something for the more experienced players. But the important part is that this wall is 560 hit points. So it's going to take a bit of a time for the horrors to destroy it. But once they do, well, they're gonna get inside. And remember that, well, because the thickness and the height are only affecting the first layer over here. So the wall behind it, it's not going to be that strong. So a good idea also would be to build like those windows on the sides of the wall, not in the middle of it. Because in the if you're gonna build it like in the middle, well, as I said, this section, this first layer, let's say, has 560 hit points. But the one behind it, well, it's only 112. And it's going to be kind of like hard to bring it to the full strength of 480 or maybe even above. But the gimmick here is that not all of the units like to be on the top. That's what she said. Some of the units actually prefer to be on the lower sections of the wall. I'm not gonna be going through the units in this video, but basically, for example, you should keep in mind those 3 units. Those are like your basic units. You're gonna start the game with those units. This is the archer, and you got this little thingy over here. This unit likes to be on high ground, so everything above 5 meters. If I recall, 1 block is 1 meter. So if I'm gonna build a wall like this, if I remember correctly by the game mechanic, this is 1 meter for the archer. So that means if you're gonna build a wall that has at least 5 blocks, is at least 5 blocks high, then he should get the full benefit out of that thing. Everything above, I don't think it increases that much his critical strike chance, but putting him above is basically a good idea. It's always a bonus for you. On the other hand, the lobber, he prefers to be between 0 and 4 meters high. This one is 5 meters plus. This one is up to 4 meters. So either on the ground or, well, in your windows. Same goes for the captor. He prefers to be on the lower sides of the wall. That's where he gets the most benefits out of it. So, archer, high wall, the lobber, and the captor, low wall. And sure, there are some other elements as well. For example, you have to build roofs. Now, I'm pretty sure that the roofs don't affect the strength of the wall, I think, because mostly they're made out of, well, wood. And wood does not affect the thickness of the wall. You want to have thickness, you need to use basically stone parts, because if I'm gonna do something like this, well, as you can see, the wall didn't change, even though it's higher than this thing. So keep that thing in mind. If you're gonna be building defenses, you should probably try to stick to the walls. You can try to make scaffolding, platforms and stuff like that out of wood, but wood, it's not gonna last too long. The wood pieces have like what, up to 3, I think, hit points at most. And that's not a lot. 4 and 3, okay. While the single piece of stone has already 6. So, build fortifications out of stone, scaffolding, platforms, or maybe easy access for your workers to resources. You can build out of wood and that'll be completely fine. And remember, if by some reason you will need to have a gate for your troops to go through and stuff like that, then the gates act as wall as well. So if I have a wall over here, it doesn't really matter, and I'm gonna build 2 additional pieces, then the entire thing will change, because this thing basically adds as 2x2 section, right? So I only needed to add 2 additional pieces for this thing to go from low toughness to medium toughness. But, well, then again, keep in mind that your troops can go through the gate, but also the nightmares will have easier time to get through as well, because they only just have to destroy, what, one element to open themselves a hole 2 on 2. Okay, so I think I didn't forget about anything when it comes to the basics of the game building. Like, this is like the basics of the basics. You're gonna have to use this thing for the entirety of the game. Probably nothing valuable for the people who already know how to play the game, but I hope that some of you who will acquire a Cataclismo on its release learn something out of it. I hope I didn't forget about anything. If I did, then I'm gonna probably try to address that thing in the comment section. If you're asking, yes, the stairs also affect the toughness. But then again, you need to keep in mind that all of your units are basically, well, those are tall boys, okay? Those are tall boys and girls. So every single hole you want your guys to go through needs to be 2 blocks high. So when adding stairs, please keep in mind that you need to provide your guys with some space so they actually won't hit their heads on the ceiling. Especially if you're building access points for your walls. And remember, you can still use wooden parts if you so desire. And also you have something like this. Like, this is quite creative because, well, I don't need to have walls underneath this thing, but I need to have wall underneath this one part over here. So this is kind of like useful if you want to make forward platforms for your lobbers maybe, or for your captors, or maybe you want to make something like a forward platform for your archers. So it's all about being creative. You have different elements, so play around, pause the game. Remember about pausing the game, because the pause the game is going to be also very useful tool for you. And I think I'm ramming too much, so for now I'm gonna leave this thing as of here before I'm gonna compromise myself even more. And, well, the link to the game is in the description below as always, so go ahead, give it a try. Let you think? If not, ladies and gentlemen, well, for now, I'm gonna do this thing as of here. Thank you guys so much for watching, hope you enjoyed, subs a lot, see y'all in the next video.